Good evening, everybody. We are live on a Tuesday night, just halfway through the month of July. So, hope you are all doing well tonight. We've got a good show. I'm really excited about it. I've got kind of an idea brainstorm that I started thinking of today. So, we'll talk about that at the end. So yeah, I had a good day today. Lisa, you had a catering day. Can you let me know which apps are you on for catering again? Because I need to do some more research as to which ones I'm on and which ones I need to. No, I'm not on, but which ones I'm on the wait list for and which ones I'm not. So I would love to kind of know that. Um, so so yeah, we're going to just continue through with this little series that we're talking about leading people, the lead process for leading people through stressful and crisis situations. Okay. And specifically today, we're going to talk about like family. All right. Deliver that. I'm writing this down because I don't want to have to remember because the brain is full or empty, one of those. So I know what's the one that outsources through DoorDash. I actually looked to see if they had delivery, and they don't. Like they just only out. You can set up from the other side, but not from the delivery side. They don't do independent drivers. But I forget which one that was. Okay, whatever. At least around here, that's what it was. So, but I'm going to do some more research because I definitely want to do that. So I did. I went out for just over 5 hours today. Did 160, but it was pretty slow, consistent but slow afternoon. I was just doing earn by time. But then we just had this tremendous, it actually turned out to be a huge KFC order. And it was, I was on earn by time, was paired with something else. But basically, the KFC order and the Wingstop order paid like 34 or 36 in the app. It was like an hour delivery, so it was like $14 base pay. And the KFC order had like a 20, was it $18 tip, 13 and 5 or something, or 15 and 3. And then there was another one, and then they tipped $20 cash for the KFC order as well. So that's what it was. Okay, yeah, and so I had done some looking, and last I had checked, I think it was delivered that they weren't taking anybody locally. But I'm going to do some more research and not necessarily give up. So yeah. So anyway, then I ended up having like a $54 hour from like 5:15 to 6:15, and that brought all my averages up from like $20 an hour to like $29 an hour. It was a weird day. Weird day in the live stream. Restaurants closed, customers canceling orders. There's a lot of wasted time in the day. So I was really surprised and happy that I got almost to the 150 in 6 hours. Well, less than 6 hours, 146 and 5.5. So it's good. So anyway, continuing on, we're talking about the lead process. And the lead process is listen actively, empathize sincerely, assess needs, and direct to resources and solutions. Okay. So that's the process. And so we're going to talk through that briefly tonight for how you would help with your family in those particular areas. But then we're going to get to 7 practical steps that apply in especially the family context. So we're gonna just talk about that. So I'm gonna not like go super fast, but like I'm not gonna rush it. But I just want to go briefly through the lead process here, of just what that looks like, kind of good reminders for what we've been learning this week. So listen actively. So 1, open communication. You need to have open communication because if you want to lead your family, everybody needs to feel like their voice is being heard. Especially the larger the family, the easier it is for people to hide, right? And so um, if 2 or 3 people start shutting down someone for saying, you shouldn't feel that way, you shouldn't react like this, that person is getting shut down, and then they're going to be less likely to talk about it and less likely to communicate their hurts, their needs, their desires. So it's really important, especially if you're in a leadership position in your family, like a mom or a dad, that you're taking time to make sure everybody is getting heard. Everyone does that. The second part with listening actively, this kind of becomes empathizing as well, but you want to acknowledge their emotions. You want to let them know that they're being heard. And so, saying things like, it's okay to feel upset right now. I understand why you're feeling this way. Um, you know, Again, you don't necessarily have to justify poor behavior or anything like that, but you just want to let them know that it's okay where they are right now, right? Come as you are, but don't stay there. Is kind of this idea here, like come as you are, but like everybody in your family needs to have the freedom. Some might be confused, some might be angry, some might be frustrated, some might be upset, right? But if any one person thinks that they have the monopoly on the correct emotions and they're more vocal about it, they might tend to shut everybody else out. So we want to make sure that each person is being acknowledged for what they feel and where they are in that moment. So second part, of course, empathize sincerely. We want to show compassion, show understanding. This is where, if you want to do a study into love languages, right, the 5 love languages, physical touch, encouraging words, and gifts, and there's a couple others that I don't remember off the top of my head. But if you want to study into love languages, this would be a great opportunity to practice it. Somebody might need an encouraging word, somebody might need a gift, someone might need their favorite meal cooked for them. But the idea is that you're meeting them where they're at, and you're trying to bring them along with you. And so we're going to get to this, but this all comes out of a heart of the fact that hopefully you're processing everything in a healthy way first. So if you missed that, make sure you check last night's episode out, because we took the time to go over how to lead yourself through crisis, which is maybe what's going on through this. And again, you don't have to have this perfected, but we want you to be one step ahead. So if you're trying to lead your family, you got to figure out how to stay one step ahead of your family without dragging them, pulling them, or shaming them for being behind you. It's actually just the opposite. You're a step ahead because you're putting the work in ahead of time, and you're there and you're ready to be patient with them and understanding and just engage with them on a one-on-one basis. Okay. So, and that is the next point here under empathize, is you got to be patient. Everybody's going to process things differently in different ways in a different amount of time. And you can't have any thoughts that child A is going to process things the same speed or the same way as child B or child C or child D. And so you can talk to them in a group, but you may get better results eventually by kind of taking each one-on-one. And so you got to stay calm. You have to keep calm through things, whatever it is. And their reactions may not be calm, right? Especially if you're dealing with kids. Kids may not react calmly. They may be hysterical. They may be frustrated, angry, act out. But you need to stay calm, because you got to set the example. Say, look, I understand. It's okay that you're feeling frustrated. It's not okay to hurt other people. It's not okay to go beyond that. But hopefully you get that idea that you're coming alongside. You're not pushing them, you're not pulling them. You're walking side by side, hand in hand with people who are struggling. Step 3, assessing needs, right? So you got to figure out there's a lot of things you have to do, especially if you're leading a family. First of all, you got to just think of the basic safety needs, right? Depending on what the situation is, just physical safety, physical care. Do you have healthy food in the house? Do you have enough toothpaste? Do you have clean toothbrushes? Like just practical things. Things that tend to often go out the window in chaos are just like basic health habits. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself waking up with your contact lenses still in, you haven't brushed your teeth, your kids are sleeping all over the living room. They never made it to bed. Everybody's waking up angry, frustrated. Nobody's getting outside. No one's getting sunlight, right? So everything starts to kind of disintegrate. And so that's where leadership steps up and says, okay, look, we know things are different or strange right now, but we can't just let everything go out the window. We still have to have some form of order. And I can say this as someone who has been in multiple situations living with my family in a hotel at different times in life, how important it is to keep basic routines to the best of your ability. You may not be able to keep it perfectly, but if you can keep a basic routine, still keep a basic bedtime. Don't just because there's a hard time going on, don't let your kids just stay up till all hours of the night watching TV. I say that as my kids are watching the All-Star game right now, but you get the idea. Have that sort of thing. And then the other side of this is you need to make sure you continue keeping care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then all this is going to fall apart. A leader can only lead as far as he has been brought, right? You can't lead people to a place you haven't been. And so you need to make sure that you're one step. Now, remember, you don't need to be 10 miles ahead of your family, but you need to be one step ahead of your family. And so, and by the way, it's not a crisis situation. It's an All-Star game. It's a fun family party and a fun family thing. But the point is, like, you can't just break routines and say, oh, well, this bad thing happened, so now forget it. Now we don't need to exercise. We don't need to eat healthy. We don't need to sleep normally. We don't have to take our contact lenses out. Don't have to brush your teeth. Don't have to go to work. Like, you've got to figure out that stability inside of you to say, look, there are going to be things that are going to happen that we have to do, even if we don't want to over the next couple days, but we're going to do that. So keeping that stability of that. And so obviously all their physical needs, but then also think of emotional needs as well. And then same thing with you. You have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Do you want to lead your family physically through a hard time? Then you got to make sure that physically you're taking care of yourself. Do you want to lead them spiritually through a hard time? You have to be spiritually taking care of yourself. Emotionally, you have to emotionally take care of yourself, because just because you're being silent and strong doesn't mean you're actually strong, right? It just means you're being silent. And so yes, I want you to be the rock for your family in a difficult time, but I don't want you to be a rock out of necessity. I want you to be a rock because you've achieved that status. You've achieved that status of, look, this is rough, but I'm gonna be the rock for my family, and I'm going to lead them through it because I put the work in ahead of time, and I'm putting in the work now to stay a step ahead. So assessing your family's needs, also don't forget about your own needs. And then lastly, direct your family to resources. Okay, now again, every situation is so different, but this can be anything from counseling. This can be things like making sure your kids have friends that they can visit and hang out with, right? Sometimes the resource is play. Sometimes the resource is fun. Sometimes the resource is food. Sometimes the resource is watching a video, going over old memories, talking. It can all be things, playing a game as a family. Sometimes it can be something therapeutic as just going grocery shopping. Just going grocery shopping, getting out of the house, doing something a little different, going to a favorite place, take the kids to the park, go to the beach, go for a hike, doing something that is going to move people forward. Okay. And so you don't need to push them forward in every area of their life. What you need to do is you need to invite people to come alongside of you as you're processing, as you're one step ahead, but to keep them going. Okay, keep pushing. And one of the most common things that I will tell people who are going through crisis situations is you don't have to worry about tomorrow or next week or next month. What you need to worry about is, how do I get through today? And if you don't know that answer, then keep shortening the time period till you figure out what it is. How do I get through this morning? How do I get through the next hour? How do I get through the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes or next 1 minute? Figure out what it is, because if you get overwhelmed by the long term, I have no idea how I'm going to deal with my life because everything changed, then you're never going to make the progress forward that you're going to need to make. And so I would just really encourage you, help especially younger kids, help them break it down into much smaller things. Like, I'm sad. Yep, you are sad right now. And so let's be sad together. Let's talk about what we're sad about. Then let's go do something to cheer ourselves up. And it can be a mix. It doesn't mean everything has to be healthy. You can't do anything fun, but just don't go down destructive patterns. Don't, if you normally live a certain way, don't just throw all of that out the window just because a hard time is hit. Okay. So now we've kind of talked about a lot of this, but I want to re-emphasize a handful of things. So 7 practical steps, because that's what this is really all about. And I think this is, again, we're covering this, so this might be doubled up. I don't want it to feel like it's doubled up, but I think it's the idea of really just trying to really internalize this and prepare for this. And I want this video to be something that everyone can go back to. I want it to be a video that I can go back to. If a time of crisis hits for my family, that I can go back to this. And even if I don't remember every point, I can remember this video. So 7 practical steps. Okay, step 1, to lead your family through times of chaos is what we were just talking about. You have to take care of yourself. Okay, so we're gonna do this. Step 1, take care of yourself. Okay, so that's step 1. You have to take care of yourself. And it might mean you have to wake up a little bit earlier or stay up a little bit later to get everything done that you need to get done for you, because maybe everybody else is kind of on odd sleeping schedules. You might have to make an adjustment, but you have to do that mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Take care of yourself. Okay. And a lot of these things are going to overlap, but again, we're just going to kind of keep going with that. So 2, you need to encourage open communication. Okay, encourage open communication. And I emphasize this so much: the larger the family, the easier it is for people to hide. So you have to figure out how to crack the nut in your family who doesn't want to talk or doesn't want to communicate. And maybe talking's not going to be the way. Maybe a multiple choice thing where they can just fill it out on a paper and you can just be like, how are you feeling right now? Boom, on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe it's not going to be a normal, what I don't want to say normal, but what you would consider normal communication, like talking, right? Maybe it's not going to be that. Maybe you're going to have to find a way. Maybe you're going to have to learn on reading body language a little bit to kind of be able to know and understand. Okay, but you got to encourage open communication. Number 3 is this, and this is going to come on multiple levels here. Number 3 is this, and I know it's going to sound silly, but don't panic. Don't panic, because if you're creating panic as a leader, then you're not leading. You're causing chaos. You're bringing disorder, not order. So there's a couple things. 1, don't promise things that you don't know. Okay, and you see this a lot, right? And it's because people don't know how to handle things. And so, let's say, one of your parents is really, really sick and in the hospital, and your kid says, is grandma or grandpa going to be okay? You don't need to lie to them and say, oh yeah, everything's going to be just fine. They're going to be ready to play with you in no time. You can redirect and say, you know what, grandma or grandpa, they're kind of sick right now, but let's pray for them. We're going to cheer them up. We're going to encourage them. And I know when they see you, they're going to smile and be glad that you're there to support them, right? So don't make promises that you can't deliver on, because it's kind of like all you're doing is you're trying to keep the kid happy now, but you're just going to pay for that down the road if something doesn't turn out the way that you want it to do. So you can't panic. You have to also just keep morale up in your family, but without, again, without bringing lies or uncertainties in, or promises that may end up failing because it's something you have no control over. So basically, here's a simple thing: is if you can't control it, don't promise it. Okay? If you can't control it, don't promise it. Instead, be steady, be stable with all that. And this, again, is basically the same as number 4. It's just kind of the opposite side. Be a steady rock. Okay? Don't panic. Instead, be a steady rock. And here's what I mean. I it's this is leading by example, but not by fake example. Okay? You need to figure out this balance of, I want to lead by example here, but on the other hand, I don't want to be fake. I want to be real. I want to clearly lay out, this is where I'm at. And so you as a leader need to also sometimes admit, hey, yeah, today was a tough day for me, but I saw it was a good day for you. It was a good day for you. And I know you guys struggle. Like, it's okay. Because if you come out and say everything is great, no one's going to believe you because they know you're struggling. And then it actually undermines the authority you have. Now, you don't want to be this panic worry wart, right? And so you've probably been around people who any sad news from anywhere in the world will just make them break down and cry. And it's like, well, I understand that's sad, but like that literally happens thousands of times a day, And so you can't be that. You have to be, you know, you can't be panicky, but at the same time, you have to be real. And I think a lot of times this idea of being a steady rock, people think like, oh, I can't, I just have to be like this. I have to not show any emotions, and I can't show anyone that I'm sad, and I can't tell anyone that I'm sad. That's not being a steady rock. That's just being a styrofoam rock, right? Like, it looks like a rock, but you're not, it's just foam. It's not really there. You need to be a steady rock. You need to be, you know what? Today was a hard day for me, but I got through it by doing this, this, and this. These are 3 things that helped me get through it, or this is something that helped me get through today. And so you can be a steady rock, even in the midst of the chaos, by not panicking, being real, but leading by example, right? Like, you can do both. You can lead by example. You can be a step ahead. You can also be really real and say, look, this was a hard day. Yeah, be true to yourself and be true. And that doesn't mean you have to share every emotions with every single person in your family. Like, you got a 2-year-old, you don't have to tell your 2-year-old, oh my goodness, I was so miserable today, because they have no concept of understanding what's going on. But it's okay to say, hey, mommy's sad, daddy's sad today. Could you just give me a big hug? That would make me feel happy. Your hug would make me feel happy because I'm having a sad day. Okay. Now this is kind of where, like, leadership, as maybe a lot of people think of it, comes in. But this is where people start here in step 5 instead of kind of going through steps 1 through 4, right? They kind of like to jump straight to, let's make a plan. And I'm kind of like this sometimes too. So what you need to do, you do need to develop a clear action plan, but only after you've gone through, right? Because if you haven't assessed needs, oh yeah, I got to get to the poll question here too. Giant hugs, or someone makes me a meal. So I'm in the meal category. Make me a meal, and that's the way to win me over. If you make me my favorite meal, like, I feel loved. So yeah, but that's exactly it. Is once you do that, and once you know what the needs are, then you have the information you need to make the plan. But the problem is, so many times in crisis situations, people make the plan and they haven't even taken care of themselves. They haven't listened to what anyone else is thinking. They're not really emotionally stable. They're not the rock yet. They're panicking, and they're like, let's make a plan. Like, no, you got to slow everything down, and you want to make a clear action plan. Short-term, long-term goals, I would say it's a very reasonable thing to just be like, day 1, what's one thing I'm going to accomplish on day 1 after the crisis hits? I'm only going to be able to do one thing today. That's all I have power. That's all I have strength. That's all I have energy for. What's the one thing I'm going to do today? And then as you start working further out, you'll be like, okay, I'm going to do 2 things today. Or I'm going to do, what's one thing I'm going to do for my physical health, one thing for my emotional health, one thing for my spiritual health, maybe one thing for my mental health. Maybe you do 4 things. And then you kind of keep growing. And it will never, if you're dealing with a major crisis, life will never go back to the old normal It will just go to the new normal, and the new normal will just be what you'll call normal in a handful of years, because that's what you want, because that's what it's going to be, because there is no old normal. The new normal is the normal, and that's what will be called the normal eventually when you get to that. So you want to start setting yourself up to moving in that direction. And then the other idea here too is don't leave your family members behind. You don't want to just set a bunch of plans and goals without having listened to them. So you want to bring everyone alongside with you. So if the kids normally do 5 chores a day, maybe you just start with day one. Okay, look, everybody's going to do one thing. Everyone's going to do one of their chores, or we're all going to do a chore together. So instead of everybody doing different things, let's all just do the laundry together. We'll play some music, we'll talk, we'll build some memories, but we'll be together and we'll at least get one thing done, right? I forget who wrote the book, but there's a famous book that basically starts out with, every day just make your bed. Get up and make your bed. Because if nothing else happens the rest of the day, at least you have started with pride in your life that you did something to start the day the right way. And if you can do the one thing, then a lot of other things will start to fall into place. So, like if you're going to just do one thing today, make your bed. Get up, make your bed. Maybe that's the first step that you're going to have for your kids, for your family to do. Okay. The next is this, and this should be no surprise. Um, and this is the same thing as resourcing, but kind of the same concept here. Sorry, fat fingering all sorts of things here. All right, seek external support. Now, this does not inherently mean go to a counselor, go to a pastor. Doesn't necessarily mean that. It could just be talking to a friend. Like I said, having your kids get together with some of their friends to just play, hang out, talk. You know, it could involve professional help depending on what the situation is, but it's really not just about that. It's like your network. What's your family that's not actually family? Make sure you're not shutting them out in this process. And so support can be kind of like anonymous or slightly known. Okay, so it's something like a feed or a stream like this where you need some support. You can have it. Of course, you got to take everything that anyone types to you with a grain of salt, right? We're trying to build a community where people help, but that still doesn't mean everyone in this community is going to be best friends with everyone else. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree with everything I say or everything everyone else says in our community. But at least having a place to go, you know, finding some videos on YouTube that might help you with different processes. But again, if you need a counselor, if you need a doctor, if you need a pastor, if you need a financial advisor, those can all be places that you can go. Just so you know, if you're still kind of a little bit in a fog of different things or how to approach different things, someone who is just a step outside of the situation can be just really helpful because maybe they've seen not the exact, because no one's experienced your exact situation, but maybe they've seen a similar situation before. Okay, and then this is the last thing, which again we kind of talked about already, but no harm in saying it one last time here, which is this: maintain routines. You maybe can't keep up with everything that you normally do, but as much as possible, keep the routines, keep the traditions, right? After like a loss of a loved one, holidays are hard. Sometimes traditions have to be tweaked or changed a little bit because you can't go to that person's house anymore or whatever. But as much as you can, keep the traditions. And if you need to, just add something new. I think it's much better to add new traditions than to just be like take stuff away and just be like, okay, now we can't do this anymore. So I remember just growing up, we would always go over to my great grandma's house for Christmas Eve dinner. We would go to church, and then everybody would go over to my great grandma's house, and we'd have Christmas Eve dinner, and it was always a lot of fun. Well, after she died, obviously we couldn't go to her house anymore. Well, eventually we figured out a new routine, and we then went to my grandma's house, but it worked better for her to go over on Christmas Day. And so then on Christmas Eve night, we started a new tradition of having subs on Christmas Eve. And so we could no longer go over to my great grandma's house. It just wasn't a possibility. But instead of just saying, okay, well, that's it, we're done getting together, we made a family shift where we then went over to my grandma's house and we have subs on Christmas Eve. And that started, I don't know, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. And to this day, we still do subs on Christmas Eve. Now, will things change? Um, yeah, maybe someday they will or whatever. But I know after my mom died, there were just a lot of things that just disappeared. We just had a lot of family traditions that like suddenly like everything was gone. And that's been really hard for me because it was like it was just really strange because I think at a lot of times probably the person I was closest to in my family was my mom. And then it was kind of like not like she was forgotten, but it was like everything was gone. It was more than just losing her. It was losing all the sets of memories and different things. And that's been difficult. And that's where I would encourage you, like, yeah, you maybe not everything is going to feel the same, but if you can keep a handful of routines, a handful of traditions still going, even though it's going to feel a little different, that's a way of honoring a person when you've lost them. It's a way of keeping things going and keeping things growing. And eventually that connection, that memory may be lost and may be forgotten a generation down the road. They maybe don't know why you do it, right? Like my great grandkids might be like, why would you ever have subs on Christmas Eve? That doesn't make any sense. That's okay. I'm not going to hold that against them, right? I'll be gone at that point, you know. But in the meantime, that becomes a source of stability and becomes something that you can look forward to. So even now with my family, even though we're not in the greatest financial situation, we still have little traditions that we keep going, like going for 7-Eleven Slurpee Day and Home Run Derby and All Star Game. Like, could I be out making money on these events? Of course I could. But there's a glue here for my family, which is we still want to maintain some of these traditions, even though we're going through a little bit of a financial crisis. Like, but we're not going to give up on everything. We're not going to say, okay, well, it's a financial crisis, so therefore we're not going to do anything as a family ever again until we're out of this. Like maybe there's a world where that's the best thing to do, but I think it's much more important to keep the glue of your family together by maintaining some routines, maintaining traditions, but then adding new traditions. Maybe you add a new tradition in memory of the person that you lost, or maybe you add a new tradition that kind of does, and that's okay. I'm not saying don't add new things. What I'm saying is don't lose the glue that holds your family together. And routines and traditions very much are a glue that holds families together. So that's the lead process, and then kind of like a step-by-step way of kind of really working through that. So we're just going to hop in. I'm not planning on staying on super long because I think the game's still going on. Probably some of my family's still awake. So this was from the live stream earlier today when I had a pick up at Five Guys. They gave me a free drink, so it is now flat cherry Coke. So I saved the last little bit just to finish on live stream. So I know Lisa's drinking water. Anybody else out there, let us know what you're drinking. But yeah, flat cherry Coke and peanuts is my snack for this afternoon. Well, it wasn't flat when I got it, but it was good. Yeah, when your mom passed, we changed things up and it made it different in a difficult situation. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe that's the thing too, right? So I'm not saying this is the only way. Yeah, it's free. I'm not here to tell you like, okay, you shouldn't change anything up or shouldn't switch anything up. Part of it is you got to talk to your family, right? This open line of communication. Hey, Too Evil, Orphan Tears are my preferred beverage. When I was like big into Amazon, you know, one of the biggest things I flipped was like toys right around Christmas time, and I would just joke about all the time, like finding like the hot toy on the shelf and then like buying them all up and selling them on Amazon for like twice the price. And like, yeah, I'm drinking the tears of children on Christmas morning. It's more the tears of their parents, I guess, with that. So thanks for hopping in, Too Evil. Too Evil's nickname for me now is Hustler, by the way, just in case you know that came up on the live stream today. So anyway, that's about it. If anybody has any questions, you know, hop in. I know it's starting to be a little bit repetitive, so I kind of understand that. So tomorrow's gonna be kind of just an open Q&A. We're not gonna like dig in too much deeper on this. I think we have the basics kind of figured out with this. Um, and again, not to say that this process is like faultless and that can't be improved, but I'm just trying to provide some good starting ground places and trying to provide some resources if you ever get stuck in one of these situations where you can be like, okay, at least have some idea where to go. All right, too evil. Good questions. The Lord guide most of your actions. I'm going to answer this on multiple levels because I think there's multiple ways. I believe, first of all, I believe yes, that everything that I go through in life, He is overseeing. That um, anything that happens to me, doesn't happen without Him being ultimately in charge of the universe. Now, does that mean that He wills evil to happen? No, I'm not going to go too deep into the theological, but he does give people free will and doing that. Does He guide most of my actions? I try. Do I succeed? No, I do not succeed in letting God be in control of all of my actions, but I try to do that. And so um, the simplest way that I would say that I try to do it is I try to focus in the morning to the best of my ability. Okay. And then I try to stack that focus with points of refocus throughout the day as necessary, because it goes. And one of the greatest points of refocus is accountability. And so accountability by staying in contact with family and friends. And I don't always do a good job because I'm a natural recluse. Okay. It's easy for me to just hide away. Like some people are like, I don't know what I would do like if I had to be alone for a week. Like when I hear about that, I'm like, oh my goodness, being alone for a week sounds so good. I miss that. I miss not having to talk to anyone unless I want to talk to them and things like that. So try to provide accountability. And like specifically, one of the areas of accountability that's been huge for me recently is just this YouTube channel because I am processing in real time a lot of these things on these live streams. I'm processing in real time different things. And so we talked about me being a grumpy old man a little bit on the live stream last night. And then during the live stream ride along today, I felt some of those tendencies pulling up. And then so I'm able to just then and there kind of be like, okay, that's interesting. Where is this coming from? In trying to figure out and pinpoint. And then we kind of dialogue about it. And that gives me more time because I still haven't pinpointed the exact reason I'm being a grumpy old man, other than to know it's coming. And so it just depends on what framework. Minute by minute, is God always in charge of my life? Absolutely not, because there are many times I choose rebellious actions. However, my goal is to quickly course correct when I notice that I'm doing something wrong. So in that sense, that He is constantly drawing me to Him when I succeed in following Him, or when I fail, that He's still calling out to me, and that He works to change my heart back to Him quickly. In that sense, yes. And in the broader theological sense, that I believe absolutely everything that happens to me and through me, He will work out for His good and for my good eventually. It just may be painful in the process right now. And just to give the broad example, since we've already talked about it tonight, like, yeah, like I've got financial issues right now that I'm working through, but because of the transformation He's doing in my life, I realized, you know what? I'm sick and tired of keeping this inside of me. I'm like, why? It breeds shame and guilt and loneliness and all these things. I bet you there's a lot of other people out there who are struggling with things financially. I bet you there's people out there who are struggling with gig delivery work and struggling to start a business, and all you see is gurus who are making millions of dollars. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like, there's got to be steps in between. And there's people that I can help now. Like, I don't have to have everything perfected, but I do have some experience in some of these areas that people don't have. And God has brought me through some hard times that maybe other people are experiencing right now. So it all depends on what level. If you're talking about my will, is my will always subject to God's? No. But is my life always subject to God's will because He's ultimately in charge of it? Then yes. Hopefully that's a way to summarize the question. So appreciate it. Yeah, like I hope that makes sense. Um, so let me give a little channel update. I've been working to really try to pump out a video kind of every day this week. And so I'm pushing myself, and I'm trying to help push the channel and different things like that. Um, and not in a way of like anything crazy. I know some of you have seen it. Of the newer style videos that I've been doing, today's is the best so far in terms of reach, which was 10 unique acts of kindness that won't cost you anything. As we talked about yesterday, we talked about finding two people that you can serve, but I think a lot of times when we think about serving, we kind of get stuck in the money trap. So I really wanted to put together something like, hey, there's ways you can serve people that don't involve money. Most of them will involve a time investment, but not necessarily a monetary investment. We did do a live ride along earlier today. It's about, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours worth of ride along. It's probably pretty boring, but if you want to watch, I would say watch the last hour and a half. If you hear me talking about a Wingstop and KFC order, that's where it gets really good. The last hour and a half maybe would be worth watching. It was really a lot of fun. And then yesterday, let's see, what was our yesterday video? See, I can't even keep up with everything. It was 4 simple steps to supercharge, which was, yeah, like what I already mentioned. So we have all that going. I want to work on coming up for a name for this weeknight stream. So a couple, I'm going to just call these a couple of like channel related announcement things, just regarding this stream, trying to figure things out. And because what I want to do is eventually I want to just go back and give episode numbers to all this. So these live streams have been going on in some form for about 2 months. I want to see how far back I can find the live here. Well, it actually looks like I started them almost like three or 4 months ago, and they were just starting as like, yeah, I mean, we're talking about back when I was getting 30 views or on some of these videos and stuff like this, and just kind of learning some of the basics. So I want to come up with like a name for the weekly show. I'm going to be doing some evaluating. I don't know 100% how many nights a week we're going to do this once the school year starts. I might pull back just a little bit because my family time will be a little more limited, and so I want to make sure I'm maximizing that. The other thing is I will be getting up significantly earlier come mid-August or so, in about a month. So probably at some point in time we're looking at a time shift. We're probably going to push things maybe about an hour earlier. I'm leaning towards about 9 o'clock, but you will hear a lot more about that when we get closer to it, just to kind of see. And I think since when I started, we were just going a half an hour, but 10 to 11 gets really late on the East Coast. So I'm thinking like, since we're going about an hour, and I'm going to do some more study on how to really make an efficient live show of how do we make sure that everybody is being heard, everybody has a chance to talk, and I get recognized, but at the same time we get through the material quickly. And so I'm still learning this, and I'm trying to get better. But it's just been, yeah. So it's just juggling a lot of things, and so I'm just trying to maximize, trying to help the channel, but I'm also trying to maximize the value I provide, because I don't want to just be, yeah, I don't want to just be pumping out content solely to pump out content. And so I know there's definitely a thing there. And I mean, if I'm going to be getting up between like 5:30 and 6:30, like it's not sustainable for me to be doing this 10 to 11 every night. I can't survive on 6 hours of sleep. Maybe when I'm older, but not right now. Maybe when I was younger I could have too. So there's going to be some tweaks. So I kind of want to, I don't want to say rebrand, but I kind of want to really like piece together everything here and say like, okay, here's a comprehensive thing, and then maybe work on trying to nail down topics a little bit better. I'm still, the channel's in flux because there is the DoorDash delivery side, which I am doing. There's the eBay and the Amazon side, which the eBay I'm doing, the Amazon I'm going to be starting again. So there's the whole money making side, but then there's this whole personal development side, which is kind of taking on a life of its own. And so just be praying for me for some clarity on how to piece all this together. Um, because I know as the channel grows, we'll bring in new people, but we'll also have other people who kind of slide out the back door too, which is sad, but it's just kind of the nature of this type of thing. So I'm just trying to figure out where and when to slide all the pieces together, what people need. And I wouldn't be surprised. There might be I might just take a couple week vacation from YouTube, just like maybe the end mid part of August to the end, so I can have just a little time away, reorganize, and then kind of like relaunch in September. I'm just debating all this stuff, and then also I want to have the opportunity to get ahead on videos, because if I don't like I don't like the system of just I got to wake up, I got to come up with a video idea, a video script every single morning. Like yeah, there's going to be times where that's needed, but I don't want to have to be doing that every single day. Like I know what I want to share for all my like next 4 or 5 James messages, but they're not recorded yet. So um so I'm just trying to figure it out. So just pray for me for some clarity. I'm trying to figure out how to piece everything together. Um I know we have a lot of DoorDash and delivery people, but we also have people who are here for the personal growth side. And I don't know. So a couple things. Um you can just start brainstorming names and ideas for the show. And also, I'm not sure how well these series are playing. Is it better? Would it be better to just take on a random topic instead of a series where we dig in 5 days in a row? I'm just wondering if it'd be better to take on just a topic of the night, or just be like, I've also thought about this. Like Monday night, we talk about, we could do like physical, spiritual, emotional, you know, financial health, something like that. So there's a lot of ideas, and I know no matter what I choose, some people like it, some people won't. But I'm just trying to sort through, because I'm going for long-term sustainability. I'm not looking to be a firework that goes really bright and then just burns out. I want to be just like a torch that's going to just be a light for a long time. And so I've just got to figure out some of these pieces to do everything here. And going into a school year where our schedule is going to change, it kind of seems like a really good time to do that. Yeah, and I can pick a random topic, and I just don't. There's a lot of things, so that's where I'm leaning towards. I got an idea for what I want to do the next couple weeks, and then I just think I want to take a couple weeks off where I can actually go on and watch some other people's live streams and see what other people are doing, see if there's some things I can pick up, and try to make everything so it's worthwhile for other people, and then also see what videos. And I just need to get caught up on some old videos, and then just kind of come back. So I think it's kind of a time, like I've been doing this in one form or another pretty much every week, for almost 8 months. And I want to kind of come together and just put a solid plan. And I always, even when I was doing youth ministry, I always liked having like 2 weeks off in the summer. All I would do is just do nothing but plan. Now I still have to work, but I might kind of try that at some point. So we'll figure it out. I'm not too concerned or too worried. The channel is still growing, the hours are going up, but I want to make everything the best it can possibly be for you guys. That it's well worth everyone's time. Hey, Meow, we're just wrapping up here for the night. But just talked about ways to lead family through crisis and stressful situations tonight. So we talked about some channel updates. We are still pushing to get to 5 paid Patreon members. My little teaser for you is, if you hop on as a paid Patreon member, um, sometime either tomorrow or the next day, you're going to get to see the really cool cupcakes that my wife made for her birthday that we are celebrating tomorrow in our family. So if you haven't made the leap over to paid Patreon, we're trying to get to 5. That's the goal. The goal is to do that. Yes, we will finish in prayer for sure. So the goal is to get to 5 paid Patreon members, and then start doing a once a month hour-long live stream for patrons only. So that's something that you can consider. You can try it a week for free. Yes, and it's a very fun theme. and they look really good. I got a preview. I haven't gotten to even one yet, but so it's a very fun theme. So if you are on Patreon and you're a paid member, be looking for that post. It'll either come out tomorrow or Thursday. But that's kind of my teaser. Like, hey, if you're not yet on Patreon, so there is a link in the description. In fact, I can just throw the link up here too, just to make it that much easier for you. There it is, patreon.com/asideofhustle. So, and as always, you guys can reach out with any questions, comments, prayer requests, anything, topics that you want to cover. asideofhustlechannel@gmail.com. Don't forget channel, else you'll be sending it to some random person who will have no idea what you're talking about. Unless you're sending them a message saying, hey, give up your email address. We know someone who needs it. But so we're going to close in prayer. And we prayed earlier on the live stream too, because Jenna, who just kind of started hanging out with us last week, she fell and had some major hip stuff and like was in the hospital today and stuff. So we're praying for her. So I'm going to pray for her again tonight. And there were just some other prayer requests that were shared during the live stream. I'm not going to rehash them all here, but you can go back and watch the live stream if you want to see that. And I know there's lots of things going on, lots of people hurting, lots of people struggling. So yeah, but it turned out like she came out and doesn't need a hip replacement and doesn't need a plate in her hip. So it actually came out at probably the best possible. They were able to just pop the hip back in and everything was good. So it was a lot of pain, but relatively speaking, she got the best diagnosis possible. So I was happy. She came back afterwards. So she spent 2 hours with us, and then like she asked them if she could stream our live stream while she was being rolled to surgery, and they said no. And then a couple hours later, she came back and gave us an update on everything. So, so yeah, it was sad that it happened, but I think she got the best possible diagnosis and everything. So it was good to hear. So I'm just gonna pray. Father, just pray for everyone here tonight and people struggling in lots of different ways. And just do think of Jenna. Just thank you for helping her and helping the doctors figure everything out today. Pray that you'd help her to still heal up very quickly, help the pain to be minimal, and just help her to get back on her feet as quick as possible. And do thank you for just the camaraderie that we had and just the different people hanging out during the live stream earlier. Just pray that you would help people who are struggling with lots of different things. And I know lots of delivery drivers are struggling in lots of different ways right now, financially and emotionally, and just trying to figure out if it's the right place for them or not, or how to do everything. Just pray that you give people wisdom in the midst of the kind of the chaos of their lives. Father, we do thank you for this live stream, and Father, we don't look forward to crises coming, but just pray that you would prepare us so that when they do come, we are ready to handle those situations and lead our family and lead ourselves through them in your strength and your power. We just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all. Have a great night. No live ride along tomorrow, but we'll still have our normal 10 o'clock live stream at the end. Thank you so much.